There's been this gold rush in recent years where every Tom, Dick and Harry thinks they can get in on the action and make some easy money off of investing in gold. But there is one massive problem. We are all going to be competing against this entity who owns more than 45% of all the above-ground gold in the entire world. And if we find out who this mysterious company is, we can hopefully find a way to get ahead of them. Hello and welcome to my channel. If you like financial education, then make sure to subscribe. Now let's get into it. Now if you have ever thought about investing in gold or silver, then odds are you probably know that there are two main ways to do so. The first way is to go out and buy physical gold or silver coins or bullion. For example, you could buy yourself a ounce 24-karat gold coin for around $1900. So if you want to own physical gold, it's not exactly cheap, however, it is an option. The second way to invest in gold is by buying shares of a gold mining company. For example, if you wanted to buy one share of Barrick Gold, you would have to pay $13.61 for each individual share. Now I don't know about you guys, but I don't have $13.61 just laying around for each share that I want to buy, so I need some money for this to work. Therefore, I will be using the stock market as a way to invest in gold without having to spend so much money upfront. And if we look at the top 10 gold mining companies in the world, we will see something very interesting. And the most interesting thing about this list is that there is one massive goldfish that is dominating this game and has more than double the amount of gold than all of these other competitors combined. Now when I saw this, I was very shocked, so I decided to dig a little bit deeper. And what I found is even more surprising. So according to the World Gold Council, there is a total of 94,000 metric tons of gold above ground in the entire world, and of this gold, 45% of it is owned by just one single company. In fact, 37% of the gold is held in the form of gold bars and the remaining 5% is held in the form of gold coins. And when you think about how much this really is, 45% of all the gold in the world, it really starts to sink in and you start realizing that this is absolutely insane. So let's figure out who this company is, and let me tell you, it's not the company you think. So to figure out who this company is, I went onto the website for the World Gold Council and looked through their reports to try to see if I could find any answers. And after looking through many different charts and tables, I finally found it on page 19 of their report. They list out the top 10 gold holders and I got to work trying to find the mystery company. Now keep in mind that these numbers are from 2020 and the reports are usually only updated every few years, so these numbers might actually be outdated. But I did the best that I could with the resources that I had available to me, so I started going down the list and seeing which companies were on here. And the list started off with some pretty big names like Bank of America, HSBC, UBS, Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan Chase, and all of these companies are banks, but when you add up all of these banks, they only account for 52% of the gold, and if we add up everyone on this list, they only account for 116% of the gold. And how is it possible that they account for 116% of the gold when there is only 1% of gold to go around? Well, because these percentages are based off of the total amount of gold that these institutions hold. So for example, if Bank of America holds 100 ounces of gold and JP Morgan holds 50 ounces of gold, then JP Morgan will account for 65% of the gold on this list. This makes sense. However, we are looking for the company that holds 45% of the gold, so I kept looking down the list until I found the culprit, and it turns out that this mysterious company is none other than the Bank of International Settlements. Now keep in mind that this is the BIS in Switzerland. There is also a BIS in the United States, but we're talking about the one in Switzerland, and what's crazy is that they account for 45% of all the gold in the world. When you think about this, it really starts to sink in. This means that they hold roughly 800 metric tons of gold. Now if we convert this into something that we understand a little bit better, which is troy ounces, we can see that they hold a whopping 183 million ounces of gold, and again, this is 45%. of all the gold in the world, so let's take a step back and ask ourselves why this company would need so much gold in the first place. And the answer might surprise you because apparently the BIS isn't a bank. Even though they are called the Bank of International Settlements, it's actually a sort of central bank for the central banks, which means that they control a lot of these other banks. In fact, if you take a look at the shareholders of the BIS, you will see that there are 60 member countries, which includes the United States, China, Japan, India, Germany, France, Italy, the UK, Canada, Australia, and the list goes on and on. These are all the central banks of the major economies in the world, which means that they control the majority of the money in the world, so now we know who owns most of the gold. But the question still remains, why do they own so much gold? And the answer is pretty simple. Diversification. They use gold as a way to diversify their portfolio away from currencies, which have historically lost value over time due to inflation and war and economic sanctions. Gold, on the other hand, has historically held its value during these types of catastrophic events. For example, during World War II, the price of gold increased by 100. During the Great Depression, the price of gold increased by 300. And during the 2008 recession, the price of gold increased by 170. Now, I don't know about you guys, but those are some pretty good returns. And when you consider the fact that gold has been around since 2500 BC, it really starts to make sense why governments and central banks would want to get in on the action. Now, you may be wondering to yourself, if all these countries own gold, then doesn't that mean that the US dollar is backed by gold? And the answer is no. You see, in 1971, President Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard, which means that the US dollar is no longer backed by gold. Now, if you want to learn more about why this happened, I highly recommend watching this video right here. But moving on, another question that you might have is, should I buy gold? Is it worth it? And the answer is maybe. You see, gold has historically been a great store of wealth and a way to protect your money from losing value over time. However, it's important to remember that gold is not without risk. In fact, the price of gold is very volatile and can go down just as quickly as it can go up. For example, between 2011 and 2015, the price of gold went from $1900 per ounce to $1100 per ounce, which is a drop of more than 40. However, if we zoom out and look at a longer time frame, we can see that the price of gold has generally gone up over time. So if you are thinking about investing in gold, it's important to remember that it is a long-term investment and that you should not expect to get rich quick. If you want to learn more about how to invest in gold, I highly recommend watching this video right here. And before you go, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.